Welcome in, ladies and gents. This is the Kingdom Come 2 review. So, quick reminder, this will be spoiler filled. So, for you guys that have not finished playing the game, come back, check this out later, but it will be spoilers. So, as we know, Henry is just coming off the events of Kingdom Come 1, where he supposedly finds success in capturing, or at least getting close to finishing, the people that are responsible for his village and Skeleton being raided and, set on fire, and all his father and his mother being taken out. But he doesn't quite get it all. And so in this game, it starts off with him and Lord Capon, or as we just know him as Hans, who I absolutely adore. And so essentially, they're delivering a message that they got from Sir Raznik and Hanish and Lord Hanish, and they're trying to deliver that. I believe it's a letter of them trying to join alliances with the other lords who can potentially join forces with Sir Raznik and Lord Hanish in basically getting the release of the king that they support, King Westlix or King Wenslix. Some of these names I can't pronounce, so forgive me if I'm butchering some of these names. And they're obviously trying to get him from King Sigismund. And so, as they are with their band of misfits that Capon and Henry pick up from the first game, we see that they run into an issue, or essentially they get raided by these supposed group of bandits, and yeah, it all goes to shit. Their crew basically gets killed and wiped out, and it's this. They do, as Kingdom Come always has. They have these phenomenal scenes of dramatic tension and things like that. Then they have obviously the scenes of just men being men and seeing these lovely ladies taking a bath by the river, and Capon and Henry, them being these young dudes full of virility, trying to see what's going on with them. And so they essentially just go over there. At first they were just going to take a bath, or just going for a swim or something. And well, Henry can't swim, but they were just going to take a bath. They hear the ladies in the distance. They go see what's going on over there. Their crew get basically wiped out, and so now they just in a bare ass essentially. One of the ladies, who we figure out later is obviously really tied into what's going to happen throughout the rest of this game, Catherine. She was about to get taken out by one of the bandits. Henry saves her, but now he brings the attention on them. Him and Capon, and Henry gets shot, and he gets hit with the arrow. He falls out. Capon, I believe, leaves him for a little while, or they split up, and Henry gets rescued by this herbal lady, and Capon eventually gets found by the herbal lady as well. And yeah, they recovering, and they trying to deliver this letter to this, I believe, this Trotsky Castle that is inhabited by the lord of that area. I forget what the name of the area is. I don't know why. Just finished playing the game. But nevertheless, that castle, the Trotsky Castle, that Henry and Lord Capon was sent to go to deliver that letter of peace, essentially. And so they were supposed to give it to Lord von Burgo, and they don't let them in the castle because they pretty much lost all their gear and stuff, so they look like peasants. And so now they have to go through all the rigmaroles as the game sends you through, trying to figure out how you can get back to that castle and make it known that, hey, they are who they say they are, that Capon is a noble and Henry is his squire. And so this game just, man, all the things that made the first game. Now obviously I'm not going to go through the whole story here, because we all know, those who played it know what eventually happens, and I don't really want to spoil too much for everybody who has not finished playing the game. Though I said it will be spoilers, I'm not going to spoil everything, but I will tell some things. And so essentially, this game does a great job, a phenomenal job of bringing you into that immersion sim that a lot of other games just don't do as well. And especially this coming from a first person perspective. Now, obviously, when I think of life simulations or immersive sims, the only immersive sims I really played was the Sims games, and I believe there may be some other immersive sim games that I'm not remembering, but nothing has been as memorable as this particular game, where it gives you this freedom of choice where you can become pretty much you can build Henry to be this noble, honorable individual. You can make him become a vagrant and a an essential an asshole and all those other adjectives that you can find that I cannot even describe right now. But essentially, I do love the freedom of choice that this game offers the player, and you do feel a great sense of agency that you have that you don't find in a lot of other games where you feel like they always restrict you. Now, there is a particular linear perspective to this game that they do kind of keep you still on track, so you don't have complete autonomy as it can appear to be at times, but because the story actually has an end and has a conclusion, but those choices that you make throughout the course of this game just is incredible, and you have to actually sit there and live with those choices that you make and how it can alter the story. But some of my favorite components was just outside of the main story, and the main story is long, really long, but it's the side stuff that really just flesh out this world and really takes this world and just not only just as it not just immersing you, but it encompasses you. You're just submerged by all this rich lore that's within this game and within the world that they have built by Warhol Studios. They, for this smaller studio to have done this, and all these big AAA studios, as we know, the Ubisofts and the BioWare and all these other RPG action adventure publishers, that they just don't do as great of a job as this game does. Now, there are still other studios that have done a great job. As I recently reviewed Baldur's Gate 3, but it seems like it's more of those off-kilter type of RPG studios that just make the great RPGs, and Warhorse is no different. And so it's very optimized, which I love, because the first game was not optimized well. It was poorly optimized. And this game, they've done it much better. Played it day one, didn't have too much of an issue as far as performance. There still was some visual bugs, as games are typically are today, which is why it's important for you guys, as I keep a rule of thumb, unless you are really, really excited for a game, get it day one, but in most cases, never pre-order, which I never do. Never pre-order a game, and it's probably best always to wait until some of the video game or reviews that you trust. I particularly look up to ACG and Mr. Matty Plays and Luke Stevens. I don't trust IGN that much, but yeah, those other game commentators, I take their reviews in consideration before I make a choice on certain games. But if I am really looking forward to something, and Kingdom Come 2 was one of those ones, because I did really like the first one, but I didn't love it. But this game, this is probably one of the best RPGs I've played since Mass Effect 2. But obviously, this world is just filled with all these various activities that I never thought would be so fun. But they matter. A lot of times you have a lot of busy work in a lot of RPGs where they have those skill-based systems and those skill checks that you have throughout the game, but you don't always feel like there's it's kind of like some of those Ubisoft games or some of those other RPG games where it feels as if, or those RPG adjacent video games where you feel like you're just doing a bunch of tasks, a bunch of unnecessary tasks that don't feel rewarding in order for you to get a certain skill set and a perk. Whereas with this game, what it does, because I think I put in over 150 hours into this game. And I did start to feel it probably around the 100-hour mark that the journey was starting to go longer than I expected. But every time I was starting to think that, especially around that 100-hour mark, it was some side story. That, like, the one side story, I believe, in one of the villages where this one man was just, and this one really hit me, because obviously I'm a person that struggles sometimes with anxiety myself, and so I remember watching that playing through that one game or this one story with this one side story. It's not even a main story. It's just one of these side stories that it just takes you off where you don't even want to necessarily do the main path because you're veering off and trying to explore and see what's the richness of this world has to offer. And so essentially that guy was like, you just figure out, you don't essentially know. They don't like tell you, they don't go out and do this overt thing of, oh, this guy has anxiety. But they do this great job of making it so it's subtle, but you can read it for somebody who obviously knows the symptoms of what it means to have actual anxiety. And you think, oh, this is just a more 2020 thing, or this is more of a more modern mental illness that a lot of people deal with. But no, even people way back then dealt with those same things. And so essentially we see in that game, or we see here in that one particular side story, that he had all these various symptoms. Like, okay, he wasn't really physically hurt, but he believed that he was, not able to complete his work and all these different things. I don't want to go into too much detail of it because I just don't want to spoil the experience. But that experience really hit me. It really, really made me shed tears. And not too many games I can say can do that. Where, especially side stories, usually the main stories where you're attached to a lot of the main characters. And I'll go into a little detail of some of those main characters that I actually like. But it was that where it's just like, oh man, it brought tears to my eyes because it's like it resonated with me on such a personal level. But just from a storytelling perspective, it was greatly done. It was greatly done, excellently done. And another side story where you're doing like this mystery, this murder mystery that's in Kuttenberg that's related to Catherine, because Catherine, is one of my favorite characters in this series as well. And yeah, it's so much more that I want to talk about here. But like I said, I don't want to give up too much. But I'll just give you some of the highlight characters. Obviously, I've been mentioning Catherine multiple times for obvious and unobvious reasons. There's more to her than meets the eye. But yeah, you got Rosa, Sir, obviously Hans. You got Zezik or Zixka, and obviously we have Father Godwin, who we also play as for a little while throughout this game. Sometimes it does take me out of it when they do the juxtaposition between Henry and Godwin. But Father Godwin is such a great character. He was obviously one of the best parts of the first game. And so it's great to see him play here and actually see his combat skills on full display. And so, yeah. But back to the way that the game, as far as like how they complement the level up system or the skill system and things like that with these added perks. Like it really makes the game, because you're just going about doing these various activities. Like who would have thought something as implementing something, a game mechanic of like blacksmithing. It's so fun. Just doing that alone is so fun. Just like essentially, smelting the iron and putting it on the anvil and following a certain pattern. Like it makes you feel, because then obviously they do a great job of like putting the vibration in and making a sound and how all that mixes together and how all it works cohesively together in a coherent way. And it's astounding. Like I did not think something so basic that I thought was so basic and so, I guess you can say, old school as far as gameplay mechanics. It's something it brings you back to that time, even though I never even lived in that time, and I'm not a historian, but it makes you appreciate that time, but also makes you value the effort that this gaming studio put into this, and the team behind this, and all the effort that they put into this game. You appreciate it more, and it's not even just the effort that they put into it, but these game mechanics that look so mundane and simple. It reminds me actually of Red Dead Redemption 2, where you'll just be you'll be in the camp and just doing your daily tasks. Maybe you chopping up some wood and you're going fishing. It's just all these little activities in the game that for a lot of other games, like even something like I know I keep mentioning this particular studio, but Ubisoft with all their new RPG games, or even something like, as I love, even Cyberpunk to an extent, it's like sometimes the side stories and the side activities are just busy work. It doesn't feel fulfilling. It doesn't feel like, oh well, I can come back to this whenever I want and I can just do it later and it doesn't really matter. In this game, yes, you don't have to do a lot of these activities. You don't have to do the craftsmanship and doing the alchemy where you're mixing potions and things like that. But you learn something. You actually feel. I can't. A lot of games I don't say this about, but I actually feel like as a gamer, I've become more knowledgeable by just playing this game. Not only about history, just about certain activities based in historical facts. And this game it's incredible. And I know a lot of people may agree with me on this, and a lot of the people may think different. Like, oh, all these activities are mundane and monotonous and boring. And I would say yes, at sometimes it probably can feel that way. But for somebody like me, this is not necessarily in my wheelhouse, but it's great because, like the first game, I jumped on the train late. Like I came and played it about 4 or 5 years after the original game was released, and then I played it. And so a lot of this stuff is kind of new to me still. But these activities, because one of my favorite games of all time is Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's not even considered an RPG, but it has those RPG components to it. And I think a lot of modern games, especially more of the AAA games, want to have those RPG components. And so this game as an immersive RPG is one of one. It's one of one, and to me, it's top of the class. Like nothing else I can see as an immersive RPG can top this and give you the action, the adventure, the comedy in here is always all the various antics with some of the other characters that I have not even mentioned yet. Like I think his name is Cubenkia or Cubenkia, and the Dry Devil, who was oh, he is such an interesting character. I don't like him most of the time, but when it's time for him to shine, especially towards the end of this game, as you guys know that I've finished it, he really shines. And so, and it's not just him. Like I said, you got the Rosa character. I believe I forget what is the one girl name that helped us at that the Nabokov Fortress or whatever. She was a good character. And there's so many other characters that I can't even mention at the moment, but because I really literally, as I'm making this review, I just finished the game maybe like 2-3 hours ago. So it's all still fresh to me. And I'm still trying to basically decompress myself from that game and, like, I guess you can say, get off the high that I'm just experiencing from the game. But I don't necessarily know where it ranks amongst all my best RPGs of all time, and I'll just essentially give you my top 3, top 5. I'll probably go with The Witcher 3 because that's the start of all my RPG journey. Without that, I would never play Kingdom Come or anything of that sort. Mass Effect 2 and maybe Dragon Age Origins, and those are 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. But there's others that I can't even remember right now. But those are 3 that I can remember as far as recently, or at least those are the ones that stuck out to me the most at this moment. But anyway, this ain't about my list. This is just about the review of this game. But essentially what I'm just trying to say in this long-winded review is that this game is excellent. This is probably one of the best, not just one of the best RPGs I've ever played, because I've played a lot of them. This is probably one of the best games that I've ever played in my life. Never have I wanted to play a game more after 100 plus hours again as I want to play this. The only other game that I can recall is The Witcher 3 or even Cyberpunk, and I never really put 100 plus hours into one playthrough of Cyberpunk. I've played and beaten that game multiple times, but never did I put over 100 hours into one playthrough. And so, yeah. And this thing is, I didn't want this game to stop. Even though I done put 150 hours into this game, I didn't want it to stop. And that's a rare thing. That's a rare thing. That's how much richness is in this game. Not just as far as gameplay components, the stories, the various characters that you come across with Henry, and Henry's evolution throughout this game as we see the internal struggle that he has, with you know, wanting to get the revenge from what happened with his father and his mother, but also, you know, with the responsibility essentially that he has throughout this game and throughout this story with, you know, building his relationship with Hans and the people that he come across, and, you know, still trying to make himself a person that he can be proud of, but also that is honoring the sacrifice, or at least the death of his parents, and how his life got. And it's crazy though when you think about it too, how all this has happened essentially within the 3 to 4 months of him basically getting his home and his whole life disheveled. And for somebody that young to go through all that and to see this journey, it's incredible. It's truly incredible. It's more that I can talk about. I may have a second review once I can get off this high of this game and I can actually get my thoughts down and I can talk about more of it. So maybe somewhere down the line, maybe within the next month or two, once I calm down, I'll talk about more. But yeah, all I can say right now, after my 150 plus hours, this game is definitely a 10 out of 10. And I don't like giving that to a lot of games, because most games, even some of my favorites, even the ones that I mentioned in my top 3 RPGs, only one of them has a 10 out of 10. And that is The Witcher 3. And this one might be just a 10 out of 10 as well. But who knows? It might change later. But all I can say is right now, it might just be in that top 3 best RPGs that I've ever played. And so it's incredible. For you guys, this may not be. For some of you that don't like all the monotonous, mundane activities that this game may offer you, but I'm telling you, it's fun. And they got even more stuff. One thing about this studio, Warhorse, they always got more to come. And I love that. I love a studio that took so much into the main game that you can enjoy and don't even have to worry about the expansions. But for those of us that have loved this series, and now we get more of it, what else can we say? The only other studio that I know that just continues to invest and invest and invest. Now, obviously, the Cyberpunk thing with CJ Projekt Red, they had to, because we know the debacle that did. But the Dying Light studio, Techland, I believe, is one of the only other studios that I can recall that like always got updates. They always trying to add new things to that game, and so yeah, Warhorse, y'all done it, y'all killed it. I can't wait to see what's next. I'm gonna wait though until all the expansions are completely dropped, and then I'll come back to it, because I want the whole experience again, and I'm not gonna do that until they release everything. But for now, this was amazing. This is phenomenal. And for you guys that may be on the fence, you should definitely check this out. For you guys that already played it and loved it, hey, man, what a ride. Peace.